All right, welcome to chapter two. And chapter two, to be honest, I read the chapter and I go, doesn't matter what I pick to discuss, 80% of it is going to be like, hey, I felt like everyone's going to say, but, we should have picked this, but you left that, but. So I just kind of say, you know what, doesn't matter what I pick in chapter two, a whole bunch, 80% of it's going to be left out. So I just, and then I had to add something for today. I had to add another chapter at the last minute, another paragraph, sorry. Because when I was preparing it, I was in a pretty terrible shape. So I just had to squeeze out a couple of things while I could think of it and then go into some pretty intense emotions. And here we are. So what was everyone's overall chapter two? What did it feel like for everyone? Michael?
I feel like he's kind of setting out some of the outline of the story. He's the first person. I mean, he's got this circle built into it where there's this big prayer in the beginning where he wants to give the message back to people. So the sequence is out, but then he goes right into the messages from Helen, and she's talking just simply about God. God is love. And then he lived his life believing in love and not so much in God. And and so now I feel like the rest of the book is kind of going to play out some of these themes that he's just setting out here.
That's beautiful. I didn't even think of that, but that's actually that's how the book began. So that's how his life begins from that point on, right? That prayer was so powerful. Yeah, thank you. Others? Okay.
I feel like he sort of seems like a little kid, just completely overwhelmed by what he's realized. And it's so touching, but also confusing that he has, as soon as he realizes this excitement and this goodness, he just wants to share it. Like that's the next thought that comes into him, which is such a loving desire to not want to take it for yourself, but to want to pass it on straight away. Well, I mean, maybe there's some injury in that too, but it's, it's beautiful to hear his passion.
Well, I was thinking that because he was involved in, sometimes I wonder how long his journey really started from God's perspective, like looking at how he had a life of despair and then he was helping those that were in the worst of conditions due to external circumstance. And so that empathy was so well built. And then immediately he sees the burden of error, which is what stood out for me in the prayer, was a burden of error. And that's it. Like, I think he was primed to help that really hit him. And then he used his free will to make a choice. Yeah. But you can see the setup. If you look at it going, there was a setup going on to make him the perfect candidate if he would choose it. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Judith?
Yeah, I think like the theme in the chapter seems to be like helping people, because he helped people and then Helen had nothing but concern over her siblings. And then you talk about the worker who, the story about him coming into the heavens and then being granted the wonderful robe because he did nothing but give away everything that he had to everybody else. So it seems to be kind of the theme of service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. In whatever small way that you may have considered insignificant, because I have injuries, that is insignificant. What difference does it make? How much is it going to change anything? But considering how much Helen benefited from our first gift of taking care of what she was really concerned about. I think considering how that she chose to take on the care of her siblings that were left to her, like she poured everything she had to do so. Like that service as well. Yeah. And how much to her, the way Aphraar cared for her at the end made a difference in what happened to her after. From the sounds of it, it sounds like she experienced something right there. And then she get to be there, kind of like the host at the gate. And look at how much she's just like, there's this and this and this and this. And it's like she's a perfect person for, yeah, thank you, Michael.
Yeah, and she said she hoped and prayed it would be her. Why was it her? And she said it was my hope and my prayer. And I was impressed that Aphraar, I think he knew her only briefly, and he probably had a longer association with her children. And I'm thinking she was unfortunate that he spent a couple half hours with, just to console. And the missionary had his job, and she didn't really care what the missionary was telling her. And then when he passed over, he was expecting to be judged by God, and he had no idea what good he had done for this woman.
Yeah.
And she said,
the
"You'll
little
find out."
things. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And her comfort with saying, this is what I know, but all the other stuff, somebody else who knows more will come and teach you. I was also wondering if, considering how much assistance he got to progress, if that prayer he did right from the get-go got that going. I wonder, what if it was a prayer that then brought in the response from God to send all these people to start training him to fulfill the prayer? Maybe it was just a passing thought. So, well, it looks like we're already in that chapter. So the first, not chapter, sorry, paragraph. So the first paragraph I want to discuss. Now, I'm not comfortable speaking in Old English, so I'm just going to read it in regular English. Page 11. This is our first prayer. This is after like minutes of being in spirit world. Like he just passed and go, wait a minute, this is not what I expected. And then right from that point on, he says, "Oh God, I know not yet where you are or who you are, but the revelation which has been given to me is full of love and bright with promise. And therefore I feel it has come from you and fills my soul with hope. I know not yet if I'm saved or lost, but in your mercy hear me, and in your pity for the sons of men, permit me, if it be possible, by some means which I do not know, by some method, your love is able to devise once more to make my voice to reach the mortal state and help to lift the weight of error lying upon the shoulders of my fellow men. You know, oh my God, the blindness and ignorance of those who now profess to lead you children on. Many have not tasted your great love. Many have not felt your grace. Many are groping in the dark, blinded by the tradition of man. Many have wandered from the fold. The songs of Zion have been forgotten in the greed for fame and wealth and power, and weary pilgrims tramp their homeward way with sighs and groans and tears, beating time to the rhythm of their march. If any joy is here for me, O God, my Father, I'm ready now to forfeit it. If the penalty I must pay is agony in hell, I'm willing to endure it, if in your mercy you will send me back with power to tell the truth of your unchanging love and lift the load of doubt from those who, seeking, know you not. That is the powerful prayer and desire. He doesn't know the rules. He doesn't know if it's found or not. Doesn't know the consequence of the prayer, but he said out a prayer. That's his desire. So how does that go for everyone? Virginia.
I really like this prayer.
Yeah.
And I'm just so surprised because he's so happy to be there. He's so grateful to be where he is and really enjoying his experience so far. And he's willing to give it up because he feels so strongly. Yeah. And relaying this message and letting people know that there is a lot of error in the beliefs and through religion and culture and so on about what is good, what is loving, and what is going to create a better life for you when you are in the spirit world.
And the way we design our life based on the lies we believe, which are now creating a lot of the pain.
A lot of people don't know that, they don't know any different. They think that that truly is what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But he lived his life based on love and made his decisions rooted in love. And so Aphraar always felt differently about, and was able to decipher.
Yeah, very quickly what he's experiencing.
Mm-hmm. But able to decipher when he was in the physical world as to those things were not really loving.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
With them, right? With some of the teachings in the church and by those that were leading.
Yeah.
In the way. Yeah.
So he knew those was lies, and in the 10 minutes he's been in spirit world, he's already seen, wait, this is the truth? And it was enough. It was enough. Like whatever he experienced in that brief introduction where he's still at the mist was so profound. To the contrast of truth, I guess, hit him so powerfully.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, his experience so far has been, I love the way that the spirit guide came to him and what did he say? Have no fear. Like, and it just emotionally entered Aphraar. Like if I could emotionally feel, have no fear of the afterlife, the way he received it, like that could be very healing for me. And imagine everybody else. Like he was able to receive that emotionally.
Yeah.
That's
it just shocked me that he was able to making that decision. I'll give this up, even though he loves us so much. But I think if I was there, it sounds so wonderful. I don't know if I'm able to give it up and say, I'm going to go back to Earth now and give this up to. But he just so believed in it so strongly. And I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Empathy, that empathy that he has, like this is why he could feel what Helen really wanted when she was passing. It was empathy. He could feel what she felt. She was worrying about the children, about her sisters or brothers. So, okay, Michaela.
I found, like you said at the beginning, there's so much in this chapter, and I feel like each question kind of unraveled all these different ideas.
Okay.
And I just wasn't really able this week to give them enough space to ground down anything. So I feel like I'm a bit scattered in my sharing. But what I felt as I sort of, I'm really battling with this concept of free will at the moment. And I feel like frustrated, that Aphraar's prayer didn't change our reality. We're still here 100 years later and we still don't know. And so it just, but then I understand that that's because of free will, and then that frustrates me as well. And I just feel like, can't we just get it together so that we're not in so much destruction and death here when that is there, Yeah. So
it's a beautiful thing to work through. Yeah.
Yeah. And that wasn't the first feeling I had about it, but that's the feeling I'm able to connect to right now, because it's incredibly beautiful. And I know that feeling of when I know that I'm connected to God, my next thought is, well, let's put it out because I know it's going to make a difference. But then at other times I feel like this isn't making any difference. Everyone's still suffering, and so it's just a bit confusing, I guess.
Thank you. Michael?
I'm humbled by this prayer.
Yeah.
It's so seldom that I hear somebody express a desire so strongly and so, purely. And I see some of the basis of it is he talks about tasting thy great love or felt thy grace. So these are things he's apparently felt, and they have created a great conviction in him to share that.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I think that's where I was going with that. Oh, and it's a tremendous gift. Now he's handed this gift to me, and if I want to let it touch me, I can be part of the answer to his prayer.
Yeah.
He's asking me to be part of, inviting me to help answer his prayer.
Yeah. That is, yeah. All kind of thoughts going into my head right now. Well, I think what I want to bring our attention to is the simplicity of his prayer, the simplicity of his desire, and the power it held to pull through a whole arc of life that would have turned out very differently for him. But knowing how much he'd already developed in a certain way, it would have been good regardless. But look at the simplicity of the prayer was he felt the burden that error has created. And he wanted a way to remove the error and remove the doubt that we have, and a parent that loves us consistently. And like, it was so simple. It's a very simple prayer. Lots of errors on the planet, lots of pain. Oh, here's the truth. I want to see this healed. I want to see this change. It's very simple. Like the prayers, we may already be living in one of these prayers, in one of these desires, and not know it. That, one very simple desire, and then all your errors, all your misconception will all get weeded out as you go, because that one desire will keep you going, whatever that is. So then the rest of his journey was about having those errors corrected in him and expanding his consciousness. So, it's a simple prayer, a simple wish. It's all you need. Judith.
Yeah, I liked what Michael said. That was really beautiful. But I was also thinking about just his life, and like you mentioned, his compassion. And while he was on Earth, he obviously spent lots of time with people and really developed a lot of compassion and sympathy. And that's kind of a lesson to ourselves, at least to me, to get out there more, because you get out there and start taking some action.
Right.
Start coming across people.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And that also, like you said, helps Aphraar's prayer to continue to be answered. And I think the book has had a huge impact, I think. And it's interesting that over 100 years after its writing, it's still having an impact. And like they said, I think I said it the last time, he was in the top of the first or maybe the bottom of the second spear. And he had this really pure desire, and look at the impact it had. Yeah. Because he acted on it.
Exactly. Well, he at that time didn't know enough about, I don't even know what is going to happen next. Yeah. Here's what I want. And God, but he had faith that God in her love will find a way. It's like, there's got to be a way somehow. I trust you'll find it for me and put me on it. So there's a lot of faith in that too, because when he asked, all he could do was ask, is this even possible? I would really like this. And he didn't have doubts that God has a way to fulfill it. He didn't have doubt. So, and he was also brave enough to say, because a lot of us, we end up with, is this loving? Is this not loving? Should I act on it? Should I not act on it? He said, look, if it's not loving and I end up with penalty, I'll take it. But I really want this. And there's courage, there's risk, but there's always something, some kind of pain you see out there that will hit you so hard that, the prayer will awaken from you. I feel. So Judith, I like your idea of going out there and letting yourself mix with all kind of people and then get yourself stirred up in some way that triggers a prayer. Yeah, and that you don't need to know what you're going to do about it. At that point, that will be taken care of. God will find a way. If God isn't already anticipating the moment where you could have the opportunity to ask. Just waiting. Is he going to pick door 1, door 2, door 3, door 4? Which door is he going to go for this time? I've made all the doors ready. That'd be Interesting. Michaela?
I feel like quite amazed by his faith. Like, even though his time on earth was not opposing God because he was about love, but he was certainly distancing himself from the idea of God.
Yeah.
And then he goes there and he's hardly there for a minute, and he like fully just dives in and accepts the truth and wants to act on it. And it just, like, I think about Robert J. like R.J. Lee's, and how he had all that time on earth where he was actively receiving all this information that's truth about God, and then he still went there and he was stuck in was it he in the hells for like 20 years. So it just baffles me that we can have such differing experiences that then result in such different outcomes that either draw us towards God or keep us away from God. And it just feels really complicated at the moment.
It does, but I think I like the simplicity of the pure desire and how that alone can pull you out of anything, and you don't even have to think about it. Just that one pure desire. And prayer, it's basically desire and prayer mixed in one, but that is enough. And it's usually something that really just gets to you because of your life, your experiences, the pain in your life. I have a lot of emotions about spirits being stuck in a house. I hate it. I feel like they're trapped. Or spirits that are earthbound are trapped by their addictions. They're trapped. And then they're trapped by our addictions, holding them here. So I have a lot of emotions about it. And I've made some prayers based on that to myself that I like to help out. Even after I pass, I say, I don't know what God has planned for me, but here's what I want to be doing once I pass. I'll take a rest for about a week. Let's do that, and then that's my prayer, my wish about issues about people being trapped in the house. Like when somebody was talking, who was talking to me about Cornelius doing a mediumship, helping a woman that he had raped 2,000 years ago. She's still in the house. That disturbed me a long time. That she, as the victim, is trapped because she's holding on to her anger. I don't know the circumstance, but it bothers me. Or the mediumship Marion Jesus did about the Vietnamese woman who were there for hundreds and thousands of years. It just, I'm off. It bugs me. But these are the kind of issues that when you find that, then you can set a desire and you're off. So I'm assuming this is why my mediumship ability keeps getting, stimulated more and more and more, because mediumship would be a big part of how to help earthbound spirits at this point and all of that. So, Michael.
An idea just comes to me that ties into another question that you asked. Fred is he's really authentic in this prayer. It's like, right. It's his essence, and he's wants to dive into it with everything he's got.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah.
And I realize I don't really want to, I don't think my heart's desire is very good, and so I'm kind of avoiding it. But here Fred is like sold out on his heart's desire. He doesn't care if it's judged. He wants to do it because he has such compassion.
The thing is to not be worried about if it's pure or not. It'll get purified along the way. It'll get purified. Have a desire, act. But if the desire is directed to God, then it'll get purified along the way. All these addictions will get exposed, and off you go. So it's okay if it's not a pure desire for now. Oh, you think it's not. Or maybe you already have some desires. Maybe you already are living on a desire you didn't even know you had. So if you ask your guide to help you feel what that is, then you get to feel like, oh yeah, no, I got a fire burning in my soul too. I've got something. There's a book called The Great Work of Your Life. I can't remember the author's name. And by reading his book, which is his great work, I connected to my passion. I was like, oh, this is my fire. This is what it's about for me. So I'm rereading the book now. but he actually has set up in the book the chapters on how to nurture and cultivate these desires to actually act on your dharma, whatever that is. So he created like how to take responsibility for it, how to act on it. And he also talks about the little ones. Sometimes we don't own the power and the beauty of our authentic desires and offerings because we think it's not as fancy or big as anybody else's. The little things we do every day, that's actually part of our dharma. And because we don't own it, we keep comparing ourselves, we keep thinking we're inferior, and then you're not, you could be serving it very differently if you were aware of. So I'd already been living on this desire, but once I read the book, I named it. And once I named it, I had a different relationship to it. Not realizing that it was already governing my life for the past 3-4 years. If you know what I'm saying here. Is that good, Michael? I was kind of going, is Michael going to use this as an excuse to judge himself?
No, I don't know, but it made me wonder, what is dharma?
Oh, your righteous path, your path, your path of soul, the path that well, basically this is Aphraar's dharma. He chose. I want to help correct the error on the planet. I want to go back. He chose his dharma. This is the path I'm going to walk on. That's basically what dharma means.
Like his high path, his road to enlightenment, or his something. Okay.
Yeah. But it's basically make your soul sing. So this is your soul's awake, you're authentic, you're zinging in like, I don't care the consequence, I don't care the penalty. This is what I want. This is what I want to work on. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks for the caution about judging myself. I forgot.
Thank you. I could be wrong, but I have the addiction of comparing myself to others, so I'm a little extra sensitive to it. Jill.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't catch the name of that book.
The Great Work of Your Life. I will find the name now. By Stephen Cope, C-O-P-E. Yeah, The Great Work of Your Life.
Thank you.
Yep, if you can see it here. Stephen Cope. Yeah. And Michaela.
Just on what you're saying about like not recognizing, one thing I like about this chapter, and it's started to become easier for me, and it's related to that judging of yourself, is starting to be able to recognize the many little moments in the day where you are in service and when you are desiring good for other people. And I think we're so trapped in that we're not, like you say, not doing enough, not doing the right things. And we go into that cycle rather than softening enough to recognize the good things that we are doing. And I feel like as I started to notice that, it kept growing, and I kept seeing these good things that I'm doing, and that was really lovely for me to start to be able to see my goodness rather than be so fixated on my badness.
Because if you want to see your true soul condition as it is, that's both sides of the equation. Sometimes when I'm feeling really down, I'll ask God, how have I been in harmony with you today? Just to go, can I have something? Can I have some kind of a feedback? Because parents reflect back to feedback our nature. So then that's the assessment we make about ourselves. And as we need to be reparented by a real parent, I'll ask, how was I in harmony with you today? And I'll get certain answers that will surprise me. Like it was just a passing thought, just a passing prayer. And like those mattered. So yeah. And then eventually I'll go, okay, fine. How was I not in harmony? Give me that too. Okay, balance it out. Okay, and what else would you like to speak about this chapter? We're good? Okay. So moving on to, sorry, same chapter, God, paragraph, my words. So the second point, page 14, Fred said, "It always appeared to me," I responded, "that whatever was done for love's sake could not be wrong. I did not profess to know much about God, and now I'm conscious of knowing even less than I thought. I still have not changed my idea." Why? God is love, Fred. That is all we know about him. That which is born of love is also born of God. So this is basically what I call the famous line. Why? God is love, says Nancy. And so what do you feel about this statement? I have all these ideas still that love is weak and soft and cushy, and it's kind of a nice affectionate hug, but it won't feed you. Is that kind of like this cultural values I have received about love that I need to work through. So what are your feelings about the statement that God is love? And that which is born of God is born of God. So, Michaela.
I was pleased to notice when I read this that, there's enough areas in my life now where I do believe this. And so now, like, for example, with this free will question, I feel like I'm just going to keep gnawing away at it, wanting to understand God's perspective on it, because I do believe that it's done with love. And I'm sort of getting in regards to that is that we just don't even understand all the ways in which God is with us and which he is gently trying to redirect us. And in that lack of understanding, we assume that God's not there.
Yeah. And then we're angry and then we act out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So to grasp that God is love is really exciting for me, because I can see that it's going to pull me through rather than make me stuck and pissed off about it. I mean, I'm that as well, but I won't stay there.
Yeah. I mean, you're working through it. It's the working through it. Like, it's the way to get rid of it. I don't know who mentioned this last week in this group, that that all of God's laws are based on love. So it's like Michaela's desire right now is, I wish to see the love God has in the gift of free will, in giving us the gift of free will. Like, help me see the love behind this. I think that's a beautiful desire. Like, any of these laws that God has done that feels painful, we can ask through the journey of feeling through the conflict and all of that. Like, help me see the love behind this. And by seeing that, I think that's how we come into harmony with God on those issues. Like, that's another way to come to peace, because then you're at peace. You're no longer angry about that issue. So, and of course, when you start, like usually when I start these questions, I'm very angry. I'm very tantrumy. But then by staying in those places, those things get worked out, because you're numb to it, you're numb to the pain, you got to shake it up, and then you feel it coming, and you're like, sometimes I'm strong in the spirits, and then they'll have certain issues, and I'm like, you know what? I agree with them. Hey, God, actually, yeah, can we have an answer here? Because I agree with their grief and I agree with their anger. Like, help me see this here, which creates empathy. But then also brings the question in me going, oh yeah, that's true. How do you answer this one? So there's curiosity of ways to love. How is this loving? By engaging the pain first. So, thank you.
Can I just add?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just feel like, as I'm saying that, the image I'm getting is, when you are just living in it, it's this endless, long experience that's got no definition around it. Whereas as soon as you want to contain it in the container of God's love has got this, and I can go through it, it completely changes the energy of the question and the action related to the false belief.
Okay, so it's creating a framework.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also protection, I feel like it contains it
Ah,
within God.
oh, wow.
Does that make
That's
sense?
attractive. Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
attractive. Okay.
I guess because you're owning your confusion about it then, rather than just living in the confusion.
Then
So as soon as
yeah,
you're owning something, it becomes contained in a
yeah, exactly.
different way.
Oh, that would definitely be protective. You're right. You're not living in it anymore. You're going to stop sinning in that issue. Oh, so attractive. Thank you. Virginia.
I think some of what I was going to say has been touched upon already. Because
good.
I really felt that when I read this, I just think, wow, that's so simple. Just
Oh,
choose
wow.
love. Just choose love. It's
Okay.
easy, right? And that when I think like that, it actually feels good in my heart. And then I think, oh, but you don't really know very much about love. You're just starting to learn. You don't know
And
much.
there's the
How
journey.
are you going to make the change? How are you going to make these choices?
Yeah.
And as I'm listening to everyone and thinking, there's guidance for that. And I have my conscience.
Absolutely.
I keep being guided towards love. So that's just setting the intention more so. Because
Yeah,
it makes it sound so simple. I
it
don't
does.
need to know all the laws. I don't need to know all this stuff. I just need to choose love and be aware of when I'm being led to it. And that's unfortunately I don't always. I know that I don't. But it's actually sounds promising to me. Gives me hope when
Well,
I read.
it's the innocence of Aphraar's prayer, of like, you know, there has to be a way. Send me back so I can talk about the errors we believe and the doubt. It's so simple. It's so pure. So you're saying, oh, just choose love. Well, yeah. Sign up for me, please. Sign up for one. I like that. Can I have that? How do I do that? I want that. So that's a prayer right there. That's your desire. You've chosen, and now off you go on your journey. And God's going, she picked door number. I don't know how many doors were waiting for you, but it's like, oh, yep, she picked the door. Here we go. So that's awesome. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have some comments? Like, to me, this is it's a fog. This question is a fog. It's still very like help me please. So Michael.
So carrying on with Virginia, if to choose love, I would need to know what love is. And I'll certainly, in my condition, I'm going to need help to know what that is. And then notice when I don't choose what's loving, and then there'll be a reason why I don't.
Mm.
And so there's really a lot involved in this. It just to choose love sounds simple, but there's a lot to it.
Right.
And
that she'll be taken through the journey.
And I'm impressed that Fred chose love, in many instances, and look where it landed him and what condition he arrived in.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That's definitely an encouragement. Thank you. Absolutely. He made one choice. He chose love in whatever way that he could understand it. I mean, his empathy. So I think right there was his advantage. Like, you can feel. Maybe that's my problem. Thank you, Michael. So Judith.
Yeah, when I saw this question, and your response about how kind of cynical you are about love, or your feelings about love, and I'm the same way. And I'm thinking to myself, I really got to dive deeper into this, because I still have a lot of cynicism about love from the way I was raised. Like if you're loving, you'll be taken advantage of. And I remembered an instant when I was a little girl where we got quite a bit of trouble trying to help somebody from my father, who got very angry at us when we were trying to be loving to somebody. And how he was extremely cynical growing up in the Depression. You can keep as much stuff, don't give it away, don't let anyone take it from you, they're going to rip you off. My mother's version of love to not really stand up to keep the peace, in a household. So
you've got the erroneous definition of love, as I do. Yeah, good point. I like that you have a list already of the cynicism. I was just thinking, oh, I need to make a list about my cynicistic belief out loud, and then, process that. Yeah, and mine would be you'll be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Definitely. Kind people will be taken advantage of. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. Anybody else? Comments about this chapter? Okay. I mean, yeah, each of this chapter, you're like, okay, right here, if I can just dedicate my life to this one sentence, right there is a whole journey. Like, whew. So we cannot do justice. But if it gets us our desires taking off, right there is good. So page 15, man practically regard the earth life as a chief rather than a subordinate condition of existence. As a spiritual being, you should be educated to look upon everything from a spiritual standpoint. In the same way as a schoolboy is encouraged to regard his studies in the light of what they will afterwards enable him to accomplish. It is not all, neither is it a finality of development, but rather the elementary stage upon which this is the next advance. While the errors of the lower state has to be uprooted here before we can assume the position we should be fitted to enter upon our arrival. So, if we were to design a child's development from this perspective, what would that look like? I've not been raised this way, and I have no idea what this will look like and how to sell it to others. So basically, I am currently grieving. I think this happens after middle age, where you start to look at all the things you were supposed to have accomplished and you haven't. And you start to grieve that, well, here starts the downward slope and it's going to be over soon and you've been a failure. So I felt a lot of grief coming up around that, when actually, if I were to switch it to what they just suggested here, it's like, I'm in preschool. So there's this two opposing ideas developing in me, or one's developing and one is grieving. But how much grief we have in our life, how much we treat ourselves badly for not having accomplished something by the time you're 50, because it's downward from here. Now you just wait to die. Like that's so how much of our later years do we waste to thinking, well, that was that and we're good, and I don't want my grandkids to visit once a week because they're exhausting. Like you just have this other version of life. So again, so much is lost by this error. So if we were to design it differently, for example, because I've been in naturopathic medical school, my education was based on what will I do with it after. So I have a concept of that thinking. Considering that I'll be treating people's health afterward, my education was for the purpose of executing those skills. Like it changes you. So if we were to consider that our life is a spiritual life, what does that even mean to you? Like, what does that even mean? We should tell somebody, well, your life's going to keep going after you pass, and you're a spiritual being, which means what's your elevator speech? Who wants to go? Michaela?
When I first read this, like your question about it, I felt pretty overwhelmed. And then I was just suggested to just look at the way that I'm parenting my children. Right. Not because I'm doing it, but because it is part of my focus. And like the main thing that's really come up, because I'm actually reading a teen book at the moment, like my boy's 10, but he's starting to change, and I'm kind of freaking out about this idea that he's going to go and be terrible and all that shit. And I'm reading the book, and it's all saying like they're going to be alone, they have to become like just the ideas around what a teenager, how they're going to be and why, are so off the mark. And there's no God in there. So this idea that they have to learn how to be alone. So for me, it's about like teaching them about the ideas of God and of emotions and all that. But but like even with this book, you know, I wanted to read this to them because I feel like this is good information for them. But then the first thing that comes up in me that stops me from doing that is this sense that they're going to reject me, and this sense that I have to kind of drag them along to even want to engage with the material. So that kind of made it clear to me that in order for me to teach my children about spiritual development, it's mostly about my emotions that are in the way, because it's a natural state for us to be open to the spirit form and to understand this, but it's just that I'm in the way, so I don't even want to tell them about it because of my fears and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Other ideas? Virginia.
I feel like the way we are raised is so far from this.
Yeah.
Even the Catholic faith, which is how I was raised when I was young, it would just look so different because children are so naturally curious. And I feel like they know more about love than we do, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I was raising my children.
Right.
Because we're taught that kids know nothing. You do as you're told.
Yeah.
You do what I'm telling you to do and how I tell you to do it. And really, they naturally are spiritual beings.
Yeah.
Love better than we do. So life would look so different if it came from this perspective.
Yeah.
And even just how we teach children.
Yeah.
To teach, if we're teaching them about love and allowing them to be curious and to learn, I guess their way, in the way that's more hands-on with more freedom and learn. But also, children are naturally intuitive. We don't teach them how to use that and how to hang on to it, because that is so useful to you in your life.
Well, considering that young children are experiencing God's feelings, probably, like it's easier for them. Like some of us have had memories of feeling like, oh, that was God with us at that moment. Like God was communicating with us. So maybe one way would be to help them identify, or even help them deliberately ask questions about, like, what do you think God feels about this, or something like that, so that they are aware that asking God question is a norm. Getting God's feelings is a norm. Maybe that's one thing. Or maybe the idea of, like in my culture growing up, we were constantly talking about that life is only 4 days and then you're going to die. There is this thing that 4 days is basically the infancy, the adulthood, like this, they call it 4 days. Like it's I guess in my language, it makes sense. Jivan char din ki hai. Like it's like it's a concept, it's a language, it's a culture of like days. Your life is only about 4 days long, considering, and that is that. Like we talk about it a lot. There is that. There is karma. Basically, this idea of there is an outcome to how you lived your life, and then there's the era of reincarnation. But then it was always talked about. So the idea was there in my head. And God is always mentioned in some shape or form. But even if it was an error in some ideas, it was mentioned. So I feel like those things laid some good foundation for me growing up, so that I knew to even engage God about questions. That God was approachable, God was somebody you could talk to, was definitely something that is normal for me.
So then you would build a relationship with God, or how to build a relationship with God?
In Sikhism, there is a concept that you need a mediator, that you need a guru, which in our case is a holy book. I guess what it means is knowledge, is, if you want to call it that. You need knowledge. But that your first attention should be on God, And then you think about the rest of what you're going to do with your day and how you're going to raise your family, what's your job. Like God should be first and foremost your attention. It's part of the language. So little things like that can make a big difference. So if you were to do this deliberately, we talk about life is eternal. Do we talk about that there are penalties for breaking God's laws of truth and love, so that children become sensitive to the penalty, going, oh, I'm feeling pain here. What was the sin? I don't know. Those are some ideas going forward. I don't know. Just thinking that, if we were to, some of us work with people who are passing, then, when you tell them stuff like life goes on and there's some things that you're just going to do afterward, journey goes on, like how does that change their experience and the choices they're willing to make? I mean, it is a big question. I just wanted to get us scratching our heads. Was it Michael who, Michaela? Go ahead, Michaela.
Just listening to you, one thing that my kids are about to learn, which I'm really excited about because we do homeschool, is about learning how to learn and learning how to experiment. And then
nice.
I want to bring into that, because it's not me teaching that, but how to do it with God. Because I think as soon as they know that, then they're away,
Yeah.
But also respecting the space of the sleep state and praying and supporting as best as I can, so that they can go there and they can have their 10, 12 hours a night with their guides, learning about God, and really honoring that space, knowing that that's a huge support to them in their life.
But I was thinking when you said prayer, I was like, oh, we could teach children about prayer, the power of prayer.
Yeah, my kids talk about God every day now, which is so exciting, and they have conversations with each other about it. So it's really exciting to be at that point where they are following their own interest with it now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's really
cool. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Michael.
I'm the child. For perspective, it's great, Michaela, that you're applying this to your children and it's becoming concrete or real. And I have more of an experience of what I wasn't taught about God and truth, and what I can now teach myself. And me personally, it's hard to apply that. But I was heading down the way you were going, Dharm, about law of compensation, law of attraction, lists of things that we've been taught and pick up that we hear. And I like what Michaela, it seems like God would even create, God wants to teach us, so wouldn't God create a situation for us to be curious about and lead us in a direction to ask questions that our parents wouldn't even think to ask us? That would protect us.
That's beautiful. So, God wants to teach us. That right there is already, we got a whole bunch of process going, the kind of experiment you'll set up, because God wants to teach us. Wow. And I was just thinking, Judith, if in your work with foster kids, if you didn't have 200 regulations to live with, if you had more freedom to speak to the foster kids who are already going through so much difficulties, they're aware of pain, probably have a lot of empathy, what do you wish you could impart to them about what you're learning, what you feel, if you could mentor them into seeing themselves as spiritual beings? What are some ideas you would have that you wish you could do?
Well, I sometimes do. I've talked to mine about, and like he recently lost his grandfather, and this person was the closest of a parent that he ever had. And so I have that happen at a teenager. I did tell him, you can talk to your grandfather And, you can still see him, and you can even ask to see him in your dreams. He wasn't so open to that, but he also, as a child, had some experiences with really dark spirits. Like he told me one time when he was little that he looked at the end of his bed, and the guy from Star Wars was there, the man for the with the burn up face and stuff. Anyway, and he said no one believed him. And I said, I think that was actually a spirit.
That's beautiful right there.
And we're not supposed to counsel them, but yeah, you would offer some more, because we're not professionals. But I just told him that, and I think he kind of understood that.
Yeah.
Because they're far more intuitive and smart. He was in a home that had some real darkness in it,
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that that dark spirit was there, just trying to,
That's beautiful mentoring right there that you're doing there. Yeah. And validating his experience that he did see spirits. And now he has a desire to see his grandfather. So you can see the mediumship being developed right there.
Yeah, like he's not going to push it away. He's going to develop it. And
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So but yeah, I don't know. I think I mostly doubt myself. And so I feel like I'm always worried about, am I saying the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I being too demanding?
Yeah.
I think of that.
As long as we keep asking those questions, we're open to hearing answers. If we're not even asking, then we can hear the answers. So that's good that you ask. Yeah. I think it'll be a while before we have enough truth and confidence in ourselves. But I think it's healthy to ask. Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Michaela.
Just in relation to what Judith was saying then about doubt, like I feel like it's really important for us to be prepared to reflect on what we're afraid of in sharing the truth about God, because that's been such a block for me, is that fear, that something terrible is going to happen from sharing about God and sharing about the truth. And so that's what I'm really noticing in myself at the moment, is that holds me back.
Yeah, I definitely.
One more thing. Well, he had experience with a parent or someone in his life that was giving him very kind of incorrect information. The notion that Jewish people run the world and it's all a conspiracy, basically.
Oh boy. Right.
So I didn't judge it. I didn't, I just said, well, you just need to get some more information on that. I don't think that's how it works.
That's beautiful.
It was just because that's one person's opinion, so that's another thing.
Yeah.
With they might say something from somebody that's totally off. And you don't want to say that person's crazy. Don't think that. Just like, I don't think that's how it works, but I think you need to do some more research on that if you.
See, what you say to him was, go for the truth, keep looking for truth, keep asking for truth, get truth. That's what you basically mentored him to do. Go find the truth. Like, how much more powerful can it get? I think that's incredible. Because when you're telling somebody there is a truth, don't settle till you find it.
Yeah, and that's what I told him too. Yeah, with his parents. There's a truth to everything. He feels his mother was wrongly accused of something. Said either she was or wasn't. There's a truth to it.
Yeah.
And you can find that out.
Wow. So. Power of truth. And to keep pursuing truth no matter what. That's what you're encouraging him to do.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay. So let's move on to page 16. Who then can be saved? We hope that every individual child will be ultimately, and I think if one shall be accepted, it will be his own fault entirely. Why so? Because the judgment is not final. It only determines what position the soul must assume on entering the spirit life. It has still the power to elevate as well as the assistance of others, while always working to raise those in the conditions beneath them. Thus, the sentence is not for eternity and vindictive. It is probationary and remedial. So my guides are really on a project in trying to get me to get that. They are on a mission with me of like, hell is a good place. I'm like, seriously, keep working on that. So I'm terrified to see my soul condition as it really is, but at least if I see my soul condition as it really is, I think I will at least get to the starting point of the journey. So it's like, there's a plus here if I could get there. So how do you feel about imagining someday when you pass, you're going to get to the starting point of your life, wherever that is? How do you feel about that? What are your blocks to seeing it? And how can we help each other, and how can we help our spirit friends around here, around us, to come on, you can do this. It's just the starting point. It's not forever. So how do you feel about that? Who wants to start? How many of you imagine going, if I die right now, wonder what my starting point's gonna look like? Virginia?
And the first time I ever read that sentence, I was relieved to hear it.
Yeah.
It is temporary. And I think, well, why should it matter? But you just, there's just so much fear about being condemned to hell.
Because we've absorbed that error, right? I come from the East and I've absorbed the same error as those in the West.
And that it's punishment rather than it being a place of correction.
Yeah.
So when I read it and really, I really want to understand it emotionally. And
okay.
That's,
okay.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah. Your starting point is where it is.
It doesn't really matter that you will be open to seeing your condition.
Yeah.
So I ended up seeing my spirit body.
Yeah, you have seen it.
I actually saw her before in my sleep state and I thought it was me. And now I know it's me.
Wow.
That's what she looks like. Yeah. What I look like.
Good for you.
Does your spirit body reflects your soul more correctly than here? Yeah, wow. She looks a lot older than I do. She looks, and just the feeling that I got in just being with my spirit body, connecting to it, that there was this weariness.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Deep weariness, and I thought, whoa, what is that all about?
Yeah.
But I'm tired. I'm just tired of, I think my addictions exhaust me and I'm tired. I'm just tired. I want to be done with them, but all of a sudden everything's just more intense now. So it's hard.
Because the addiction needs to get triggered.
Yeah, but when I saw her, I just felt the weariness. I'm like, oh my goodness. I just wanted to like hug her and say like, it's okay to rest. And like, what am I saying? That's me. Like, this is me.
Yes. But look at how you chose to respond to yourself with love.
Yes, which is different. Because when I first saw her, I was like, wow, is that me? Why do I look like that? What's going on? Yep. What is that all about? I thought my whole body was supposed to look exactly like me. And it's, no. So I think in the last week, when I actually read this, I opened up to it a bit more because it became clearer for me. So now I'm working on how do I work through this and you know where the weariness was coming from. I really want to see what that was about, and now I know it's my addictions, and I'm done. I want freedom from that. But it's not like that.
No, but the decision to the beginning of the end is an awesome decision. It's good for you. I love how we're slowly beginning to change how we respond to our hurt selves. It's beautiful. I think that's a very necessary part of the process. How are you going to respond? Yeah, thank you. Okay, who else? Michaela.
I think when I read your question about the quote, I was sort of struck by why you're referring to it as the starting point. Like I feel like we go there every night and we, you know, we can engage with it now. And I sort of can see the gift or maybe the curse, but of we can go to these dark places at night and then still potentially create a safe space in the day where we can work through what we've seen in the night. So yeah, I
like
don't
that.
see it. It doesn't need to be shocking, you know, like it could be totally known and we could already be working on it now. But then I was thinking about your question of how can we help the spirits who are stuck at their starting point, and
or don't even want to look at the starting point because they're still earthbound.
they're just completely
or they
stuck.
took one look and came right back. Going now, not going there. I'm going to go back to Earth and go and poke somebody, right? Because there are spirits who will look at the place they're being sent to, and then they run. I can totally empathize with that. But how can we encourage them? Yeah.
So I was just sort of sitting with that then, because I feel like even with some of my friends in the past, you know, I've seen their life and I can feel their stubbornness to even soften, mostly from the self-punishment and the self-loathing. And it's sort of, I got to the point where I realized the only way I can help them is to pray genuinely. Like I can't get in there, because getting in there doesn't make a difference, you know, and then I end up expending all my energy in the wrong direction, trying to help someone, you know.
So what's your prayer? What do you suggest? What prayers?
Well, my prayer at the moment, like most of the time, is just that people can just soften enough to recognize that they have a parent that is there.
Yeah.
They don't feel so alone in that space of.
Yeah. Wow. That's a beautiful prayer. Yeah. And one of the prayers I've had for spirit was for them to know that they've already been forgiven. Whatever it is, it's already been forgiven. You just gotta start walking towards it. It's done. It's done. Oof. Yeah. So I feel very strongly about that. It's a huge motivator for me, for sure. It's already been forgiven. Gives me the courage to even walk towards it. It's a huge support for me. And I pray, I wish for all spirits to know that. I think that is a healing balm for sure. So, Michael.
That you are already forgiven ties in with the idea of judgment and how we think it's a punishment. And
right.
And judgment could be any moment that we have an awareness of ourselves and where we some truth about ourselves.
Right. We're accepting a judgment, like an evaluation. Let's call it an evaluation. The word judgment is too loaded. We can say that's your evaluation for where you are on that particular sin. Is that what you're suggesting?
And Michaela, it has never dawned on me that we could see our condition in the spirit, we're in the sleep state, and then work on it in the daytime. Because I always thought we go to the sleep state for insights for how we are during the daytime, and we work stuff out. So that's like a diurnal system that God has created for us for our healing.
Both Virginia and Michaela has done a lot of investigation on sleep state. Yeah.
And I had an insight too about the choosing the love question, which is love gives without expectation of return. So Fred did a lot of that in his life.
Yeah.
That's one way to know what love is.
Oh. Huh. You know, I think prayers is the one place that I can say I safely go there. Yeah, prayer is the one place where my addictions are minimal. I like that framework. It's like, am I coming from love? Well, am I expecting something in return? And that's okay if you are. You can work through that. I think it's probably kind of a mixed mishmash of, it's not just this or that. My suspicion. I could be wrong. Thank you. So how would you encourage spirits around us, Michael, about getting to the starting point?
Could you rephrase the question, because I'm not focused right now?
Yeah. So how can we encourage each other to do what Virginia has done, which is she looked in the spirit in the mirror and saw her spirit body and say, okay, this is where I'm at. Here's my starting point. How can we get there? How can we get our spirit friends to be brave enough to do that?
Do we have to be willing to do it ourselves?
No. Before we pray for others?
No,
I don't think so.
to look at our real condition, because believe I've taught spirits, and I've been completely in the dark about my own condition.
Yeah.
And they could see that I didn't know what I was talking about.
But you can pray. No, I believe you can pray and encourage others even if you're not there yourself. I do believe that. I don't know. Michaela.
I think on that though, Michael, like we can lead by example, like of choosing to look at ourselves, and the spirits watching us can see that the changes that come into our lives as we do choose to acknowledge the truth about where we're at. So I think that's a way that we can make a difference.
You could make a list of your blocks for that, Michael. Like, what are your blocks, which I can also be doing, to seeing your true soul condition? At least name it. Going, okay, these are my blocks, these are my fears, but why I don't want to see. Or when I imagine myself having passed, you don't have to wait, but imagine yourself having passed and seeing your robe and the color is that. What is it that you're going, what's your dread about, if any? So that could help you.
And invest something in the question, invest some energy on my own part, and then ask God, what else is there?
Yeah. About my soul condition, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, God will show you your soul condition in an instant, as soon as you want to know. But if I don't want to know, I'm going to have to release why I don't want to know so that it can be shown. And otherwise, we're kind of frozen in that fear. And the fear may be kind of nothing. It may be that you see your soul condition, you're going, oh, thank God it's not too bad. You know, like, oh, a little dusky, but I see some shades of pink. Okay, I'm good. I'm happy with that. I mean, I don't know. I'll be very happy with that. I'll be like, oh, good. I only look about 60. I'm good. You never know what that feels for you.
So I'm hearing, I'm afraid to ask to find, because I'm afraid to find out, but you're also setting up that finding out is the starting point. It's
Yes.
like wishing the judgment from myself and then realizing, oh, that's just where I start from.
Yeah.
It's not a punishment.
It's only upward from here.
And there's a lot of help for that.
Which is what the books are about. How much help? It's just overpouring with help. They're kind of almost falling on each other in their desire to help. And then when we read about the stuff that we read about what Laras is doing and his mission are doing with the earthbound spirits, and like so much, like the stories, if you remember, as soon as one of the spirits who were in the horde of fighting, as soon as she didn't even finish saying, I'm tired, is there not a way? Boom, they took her out. Something like that. She just almost finished a prayer of anguish. They're like, oh, are we happy for you or what? Let's get out of here. So definitely.
So the answer can come that quickly. I mean, we should feel something in our spirit. If we feel a true prayer, there could be a response immediately. I would tend to not go with it. I would feel a little lightening and then stay here and say, oh, I got to suffer a little more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Last one. Oh my goodness. Okay, we'll just talk a little bit about this one. Holy smoke. It's like this chapter. Like as Michael pointed out, this is basically the rest of the book started from here. So we can't do it justice. Anyway, page 18. Would you teach men to repudiate wealth, like give up wealth? Certainly not, but we would teach them that every gift is only held in stewardship and that they'll be called upon to render an account in the midst. Our Father has placed upon earth enough to supply the needs and give some comforts to every one of his children. But the strong have taken away the portion of the weak until luxury and starvation abounds. Is this right? No. And at judgment, the plea that the wealth so held was honorably acquired will not avail, since God designed that it must also be lovingly dispensed. Well, how did that hit you? Who wants to step? Go ahead, Michael.
Just that my first thought was Elon Musk.
Yeah. Yes. You can make a list of your projections. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What are your thoughts about it? About Elon Musk? Oh, you mute.
I'm not going to say any more.
Yeah.
That was
I mean,
just.
I have judgments about people who are wealthy. Like I'm not feeling love towards them. So I kind of felt a little bit cautious going, I feel like a lot of justified rage against the rich and they're bad. And it's like, well, that's not coming from truth because I'm in anger. But then
I just, there's a lot of, I listen to the radio and people are saying there's so much more that he could be doing.
Right.
You know, it's like kind of like a plaything and it could do so much more for people.
Yeah.
And so I see a person indulging limitless ability to and privilege while there's a war going on.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Michaela.
There's just like a short paragraph just before that, which I thought was really interesting, and it talks about this makes all men equal in their advantages and adds commensurate responsibility where wealth or power has been entrusted. Like that just makes me feel for them, you know, like that extra responsibility.
Yeah.
Not right now. Pause. Just pause. Sorry.
No problem.
But also the phrase where it talks about how God has made enough, you know, now the more that I engage with the natural world, particularly the flowers at the moment, it trips me out how many flowers there are and how they continue to just create themselves. And I think it's so incredible to consider that might be true, that there is enough for everyone, even if we kept on populating the way that we are. Like, what kind of parent is that? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Gives you hope. Absolutely gives you hope that is a truth. That is a truth. There is more than enough for everyone, plus some comforts. And I'm thinking if everyone have basic necessities, and the feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood like results, I feel like that is very satisfying. That's a lot of comfort right there.
Well, the simple comforts, like to sit around a campfire and to sit with the trees and the stars, like we've just really lost sight of the natural beauty, and we're creating all this crap that comes with the money. But I think as well, like we're all a part of it, that this imbalance. And I think like this property that I now own land on, the lady's really wealthy and she's created this dynamic where so many people can share in what she has. And I think that sort of stuff will start to come through more as we start to work on our own issues around money.
Yeah, exactly. And if we don't work through the issues, but we have judgments about the wealthy, then, I may be sabotaging my own ability to attract wealth, because then I don't want to be like those people I judge. So that could be an interesting point right there. Michaela?
Also, this idea that we have to have money to be in wealth, like
Yeah.
this land that I now have ownership of has come to me super cheap. And it's like, as people desire to be more kind, we can live abundantly without having the money to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The means to an end. Yeah. Wow. I mean, each of the points that I was thinking, what's Helen doing now? Like, that's just, look at her passion, and boom, 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 boom. And like, just the download she gave, you're like, I wonder what she's doing now. Where is she at? And what's her passions? And that's a massive chapter. Like, somebody who has a passion for economics, like, can take that chapter about money and distribution of wealth, and like, where would you go with that? Somebody with a passion of education, and where would you go with that? And like, all these offshoots of people that should become in harmony with God, whatever gift you have in whatever area. So much. You can touch anything, and she gives you reason to hope, to believe that something beautiful is in the design of that. That's awesome. So we have gone on quite a while today, and well, we'll just carry on. But yeah, this chapter was too full, and we were never going to do it justice, but we just kicked the stones a little bit around and get some desires going, and hopefully our spirit friends got a lot of benefit today. Okay.